What day in the
19th of December, 1898.
1898. Who was your father?
Jim Christy. Didn't have any other name. Didn't think enough of him. He said to give him another name, just Jim. He said just Jim. I can hear him say that now, but it's hard.
And your mother?
Anna Elizabeth, but that's all. Anna was her. Yes.
What kind of work?
I tried to, everywhere I went, I tried to think, well, now, I may not be this way again, and not that I was any smarty about it, but I made notes, and they say, oh, you don't have to make notes here. You see, it'll be, you get a book with all it. It wasn't all in the book. I for that God's coattail. Let me just now digress. I'll digress quite a bit on you here, but I like to Notre Dame. They say Notre Dame, Notre Dame, Notre Dame. Doesn't have a way of pronouncing it over there, but Notre Dame was Lady God, and there was 8 virgin statues all in a row there, and the beautiful statues or something. You know, I don't know what was 8 of them. And she says, "All right, look them over close now." I said, "I'll wait. Let's make a decision." What about that second one from the left? She looked like she was a virgin, and she looked like she swallowed a pumpkin. See, and we had yet and wasn't looking for that, and hadn't noticed her. They were just playing. And some of my friends been our sense, I asked them to verify that, and they did. Okay, that's one little thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you know your grandparents?
Yes. On my father's side, well, he died when Daddy was about 2 years old. But he was Oliver Jack Christy, and he was a World War veteran, born in Indiana, and he was 30 some odd, and he passed 36. He was a young man. He passed away, and but I never talked to him. My daddy never did. He was fine when he was a baby, but and I never did talk with my other grandfather. I'll get into that later. I talked to him a lot about the war, and I've talked to I've had letters from my grandfather Christy's old, what they call it, bunkmate then. They call him later on, you know, shipmates and this and that and buddies. But he was bunkmate all through the war, and he told me a lot in this letter. He had somebody write it for him, and the battles they were in, the last battle, the first battle, and where they were paid off, and that's what I most got from him. And from the War Department, I have records from them that's official records from the War Department, and that tallies up with what he had to say.
Yeah, tell me about that letter. What was in that letter? What did that man say about it?
Let me get Billy Arnold was his name. They called him, and in an old soldier they called him Captain. They don't call me because I wasn't a soldier. They may call me Admiral, but not in the Navy. But they called again, and they called Captain Billy, and he says, "Yes, I know Jack Christy, and you old Jay Christy." He says, "He was my bunkmate all the time I was in the service." And he said, "We fought the first battle in Newtonia, Missouri, and then came on down to the Battle of Prairie Grove, and that was in 12 miles west of Fayetteville. And it's marked, and they have a lot of battle markers there, and I've corresponded with the Daughters of the Confederacy, and from there, and of course, those people, a lot of them done passed away then. But he told, and it also in Texas there was the Sabine Crossroads, Mansfield, Texas, and then they were 2 days later at Pleasant Hill, battle there. Then another battle was a big battle was over there on the Mississippi. They had several skirmishes between there and the river, and his old captain was killed there at the east of the Mansfield, and battle of I can't think of it right now, but anyway, he was killed there. And even within the battle of on the Mississippi was the Yellow Bow. That was a terrible. My grandfather Cross told me about that. They were both in all those battles I mentioned. They were both, well, one of them he wasn't in Missouri, but the others in Louisiana. They were both in the same battle, but different divisions. one of them's called Walker's Division. That's what Grandfather Christy was in. And they call them the Walker's Greyhounds because they move so fast. it stays in history. Now, if you want information on any the lowdown on any Civil War official records, they have at the college up there. Well, they have several sets. They have about 30 or 40 volumes, and I've read most of those. So if anything pertaining, you can tell from that what section I want to read it, and it tells a lot about my grandfather's battles they were in.
Your grandfather Cross, what did he tell about the battles? What happened in those battles?
Well, all right. Now this could be a long story, but I'll just touch the main points. Right? I mean, if you want to ask me more, okay. But I've talked to him a lot, and he was 87 when he passed away. The same age I will be next birthday. He never wore glasses in his life, and I've talked to him quite a bit about it. I wish I'd made more notes, but most of them are mental notes, and I marked some down. And I name of some of his outfit. The first, he enrolled state of San Antonio in Texas, and he'd say I was in Sibley's Brigade in Tom Green's regiment in Sibley's Brigade. Well, H.H. Sibley, he was a general, and he was in New Mexico. See, we had a lot of engagements in New Mexico. A lot of people don't realize that. And part of the battles of anyhow, we won that, the big battle, and then we won several, and we lost several. Finally, we got too far from our supplies, and we had to retreat. And we retreated back into Texas, and old Sibley, he was considered quite a drunkard, and so they were ready to transfer him anyhow. So they turned his record when he got back to Texas. They turned his regiment over to General Magruder, and so Magruder was Prince something he called him. But anyhow, it was Magruder, and there's a lot of he was then from now on he was under Magruder, and they said they just re-signed him, but I don't know just where it didn't make any difference. But they had a terrible time out there, and they had some awful tough battles. And we won some and lost some, lost most of them. But then they reorganized. I couldn't say where it was, San Antonio, maybe at Austin. These were the 5th Cavalry Regiment, 5th Texas Division in the Cavalry, with the Volunteer Texas Cavalry. And that's where I kept up with him for the rest of the time. Was that it mentioned anything in history about it. Well, he came back to Texas, and let me see now if I'm getting this somewhere to right there. He was on Magruder, and the rebels they had captured Galveston, and the flagship of their fleet there was the Harriet Lane. And Harriet Lane, she was the first man of war that's ever named for a woman known. And she was named for Harriet Lane, who was the hostess of the White House when President Buchanan was president. He was never married, so she was his niece, and she was the hostess of the White House. But anyhow, Magruder soon learned what had happened there at Galveston, so he proceeded to organize this. Some of this points have been in Tom Green's regiment, and had been in Sibley's Brigade, which is Magruder now. And they mounted, they said mounted, Texas Cavalry, see, it said mounted, on a couple of gunboats up near, went down the Channel Light from up around Pasadena in there somewhere. I was in Pasadena then, but from Houston it said. And they went down there and they attacked this Harriet Lane in the night. And they finally aborted. It was a hand-to-hand fight, and Granddad said, "Oh, it was a bloody battle." And then these stories about it, and even in the official record said it was a bloody battle. So anyway, he was on the Bayou City and the Neptune boats attendant, and he taxied his own son's ship. And when he came aboard, he recognized his son. He knew he was on that ship, and he was dying. And the only thing that the boy was able to say was he recognized his father. And I have a lot of stories of this. It's all tally up the same. And all he could say was, "My father is here." And in a way, it was a sad thing, a statement, but that is it. If everything is all right now, my father's here. But he died immediately after as far as I can. Well, then when he was buried, when they had the funeral there, Wainwright, they had a military funeral for all the men and officers that were killed. And Major Lee, he conducted the services over his own son. And also, he was a Mason, his son was a Mason, and Wainwright was a Mason. And he conducted it also a Masonic funeral over his own son. And that is a story, I have a lot of books of that in talk about it. I had one on that I get along with my daughter in California. Texas and the Confederacy, they have a lot of stuff I earmarked in there. And she's going to have a copy made of it myself. But anyhow, they were buried, and later on, when Sam Houston was buried, that's just a little while after that, the carpenters from the Harriet Lane, they were prisoners then, came up and they made his casket there, and he's buried in Houston. I've seen his monument there, and a statement by Jackson says, had like Jackson, that's his statement from Jackson. The world will take care of Houston's fame. The world will take care of it. Well, I guess it did, because he put it a lot of times since then. And then from there, they went over into various places. I have the names of some of them. Not too much about those battles. In Louisiana, went on up to Mansfield, and that's where Grandfather Cross and Grandfather Christy were in the same outfits. I mean, in the same battles, but in different outfits. Grandfather Cross was in Magruder's army and Tom Green's regiment. Same regiment he was in. Well, that was a terrible battle there. And the battle up at a little earlier, up at Prairie Grove, Arkansas, there were approximately 25,000 men in that battle. Well, now that's a lot of men, even in the World War I, II, and like that, or one is a lot of people. Well, and they had to just mostly walk across those swamps and rivers, and I don't see how in the world they made it, but they did. And we lost out there because we had 10,000 there, and they had approximately 15,000, and they overpowered us there. And we had
what side was your grandfather Cross on?
Both Confederates, both on the coast. They came to Grandfather Cross came from Indiana. I mean from Illinois, and Grandfather Christy from Indiana. But anyhow, Grandfather Cross, he came when he was 12, and then he'd been there long enough to felt like he was qualified as a citizen of Texas, and he'd refer to me. I heard him say a number of times. He'd talk about the Yankees, blue-bellied Yankees. He was a blue-bellied Yankee. So it started, with them blue-bellied Yankees. They never got out of the system. Of course, I didn't talk to Grandfather Christy. I didn't see him. I saw his wife, his mother, and I have a letter from Grandfather Christy written in January '96, and my father was just a baby then. He came up into Texas to see some people. He came up to Oklahoma around Duncan in there somewhere to see some friends there and some kinfolks. And he wrote her a letter while he was there and told about his trip up there. And I remember he saying that they had the language he used was a different way now. That the deer and turkeys, wild deer and wild turkeys, were tolerably plentiful, he said, and we had all the meat they wanted, and up in that territory they still were. And he was a champion sorghum maker over in Hunt County, Texas, in that neighborhood. Everybody said that they told me. And he had his old day book. He kept his, he bought sorghum and people he owed is in it. And he bought a load of sorghum. They said he hadn't sold him sorghum, just up in there a day. And Sylvania and the cousin was all about them, you know. And I have that letter. It's old letter. But then, like Grandfather Cross now, he went up like to Mansfield. Mansfield is called the crossroads. And they fought in that battle, and there was several officers killed there, and they lost a lot of men. And I think it was all in that battle. Some was in there when Grandfather said they'd run out of flour. I hadn't had any flour for weeks and weeks. So they went up to forage, they called on the community, you know, and not pick stuff. But they learned of an old flour mill that had some flour in it. So Grandfather was a small man, so they hoisted him up to that outdoor window, small window, and he goes in and he brings out a sack of flour. He tells me this, you know. He says the next morning, why, the old sergeant and captain never said anything. They knew he was on, they had to do it. But it was the captain. The captain said, I believe it was, maybe it was one of the majors. For breakfast, he had him some hot biscuits for breakfast. The boy said he didn't say a word about it, even missing being, because they had cornbread for weeks and weeks, you know. And all the officers in there knew about it too. But now, you see, that old major captain didn't say anything, because he was glad to get it was it. And they probably may have had some sorghum and stuff, but they probably got some butter somewhere. But anyway, that was one item that meant a lot to him.
Is that light too bright?
No, it's not a problem. You turned off.
No, that's fine.
I just do not have it on, but sometimes I watch TV and I'll lower my cap a little bit, you know.
Did your grandfather talk about the end of the war? Civil War?
Well, yes, some. And they went on from Mansfield and Yellow. They went on to some skirmishes, several skirmishes there in Old Banks was the federal general. They chased him up down that Red River expedition. They chased him out of there, and Yellow Bell was almost on the river, Mississippi. So that was a real tough one. And Granddad was. They sent him one day when that battle was on. They sent him for some supplies, and they'd been fighting all day. And that night when he came back, he said it's dead everywhere. He said he saw many a hog run around there with a man's arm or leg in his mouth, you know. And he was a teamster part of that time, and then part of the time he was mounted. He was like with the cavalry. So he was with the cavalry all the time, but he had different assignments. But anyway, when they started back about that was their last major battle, and they didn't have them. They wouldn't stack arms. This outfit wouldn't. This division wouldn't. Nor Grandfather Christy. They just turned them loose and told them to go home. And they just scattered and went home. They didn't stack arms. They didn't suffer the humiliation of that. They just went home. Well, he was discharged at Harrisburg, Texas, which is within the city of Houston now. I've been there where it had been. And they went on the way home. They went to Crockett, Texas, and my son lived there later on. He had a drugstore there, and he Wichita Falls now. And his store blew away in that terrible cyclone, but he got good, about $100,000 out of it. And he works for the Safeway now, licensed. And his son is a pharmacist too. He works for the Safeway, different store. But anyhow, that's where he went home, and he said, well, now I have to back up just a little bit. Their outfit went to Harrisburg where they were discharged, but he was home on a furlough on that day, and he's taken an outfit, had to go back the next day. And my mother has told me about this, and she says he'd lay asleep, and his cousin had heard about the war was over, so he called her, his name was R.J. Christy, Riley Jackson Christy. Riley John Christy. He said, "Wake up, Riley, old boy. You don't have to go back," said, "it's all over." And all the boy shouting and rejoicing, they had it. And so he didn't have to go back to the war. He may have went, I'm not sure whether he went back to, this happened around Weatherford, Texas, but around a place called Granbury, between Weatherford and Granbury. And I don't think he had to go back to Harrisburg for discharge. I think they just considered themselves as discharged. Well, soon the news got everywhere then. And then Grandfather Christy, I have from the War Department, and they said he was discharged a certain place, and I forget the name of the place where he discharged, Fort something. And but they discharged about the same time. But that was their end of the. Of course, there's a lot of little in between that I would think of later that you might want to ask about later, but I'd have to kind of. I have a lot of on some various written down, but that's mostly assignments some of the officers and all, and that way I could identify the battle in place of him. But it'd say Green, he was in charge of a certain place. Well, I knew that he was because he lived Green all the time. And Thomas Green was, I have his picture, and he was they just loved that man, and they just said they'd go with him, they'd follow him anywhere. And he never asked anything that was unreasonable of him that way. He had been in the war with Mexico too. And this is, I digress just a second here. I was in Luncheon Bennett for years, and so was my daddy. And he made his main dish was homemade what's called Texas style chili. And so I always told that my great grandfather, when he came down there in he was with Illinois in the battle of against Mexico in '46. He stole their before that he stole their recipe, and that's what caused the battle of '46. Mexico's grandfather stole his recipe. Well, he did. He was captured, all right, and he was in Mexican prison at Yuma for a couple of years more. But as soon as the war was over, they turned them loose. They didn't want to feed him anymore, so they scattered and went back. And then going back through Texas, he liked that country. By that time, there's quite a few settlers coming in there, and they were scattered. But he went home and bundled up his family and brought them to Texas. And Granddaddy, of course, was 12 years old then. And,
did he talk about being in prison at Yuma?
Yuma.
You hear any stories about that?
I don't know of any. I haven't got enough information. I can get it by writing to these war records from Illinois, and he came from Meridian County, I believe it was, close to Springfield, and they had a large home, and a pretty large family, and they had a large home there, and on this, they called it on the pike. They didn't call it highway or Bain, something, they called it pike, and said that number times he could remember as a boy there before he's 12 years old, that people would stay all night and eat supper with him, eat breakfast with him. That was story, and they offered to pay for it. They didn't do it. Or if they had some stock to feed or something, they'd probably charge them that. But he said number of times. He didn't say how many, but just say 4 or 5 times that Abraham Lincoln had stayed all night with him. And he's out on from Springfield, he made out on his assignments and courts, different places around. And he'd come through. Well, he always knew it was a good place to stay, so he stayed with me. And we said we kids would get down the stairs, and we would be in the parlor, and we called it in. And we liked to listen to him talk. Well, of course, that's understood that he was a great storyteller, He was. He said, "Oh, we like to listen to him." And the folks, let it be known that they were raised right. He said, "It's time to go to bed, children. Get to bed." And they didn't wait for the second invitation. They went on. They got upstairs, got ready for bed, and slipped down in the hallway between their parlor and the door to the stairway. And they sat down on those steps and still listened to him talk. Said, "I think they all hope you was there all the time." And he said, that was talk about interesting. Well, I've always proud of the fact that I shook the hand of Abraham Lincoln. It used to be that back in the Dad's boyhood days, he went to Galveston, Houston to hear see uh, uh, Fitzsimmons and John what's it called Champions, fighting, and John L. Sullivan. And he said that both those days, if you ever shook hands with John L. Sullivan, you know, did wash that hand again. And you're shaking the hand that shook the hand of John L. Sullivan, sir. We'll just have you know that this is something that it's to be proud of, and it was. You're shaking the hand that shook the hand of John L. Sullivan. So he was that about Lincoln.
What was his name again?
John L. Sullivan?
No, your grandfather, your great grandfather.
Oh, my great grandfather. Let me see now.
Is this the one that knew Abraham Lincoln?
Yes, yeah. Oh, wait now. William, I believe.
William Christy?
Yeah, I have it in some books somewhere, but Lord knows. I have down, and I have, the kids have some copies of them, but, you know, I know some of them are not interested, really. And, you know, and my daughter is. She's working in, genealogy in California now. She got a lot of information back here about a month ago. And she's been writing for the different states where they were, and she found out what county they were from, Meridian County.
Now, your great-grandfather, that was a prisoner.
No,
in Yuma?
Yeah, he was.
Now, where was he captured?
Oh, I don't know. Somewhere around on the border down there somewhere. But maybe that's where they're sitting, you know.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't go very far in Old Mexico and everything. And that before, of course, then later on they moved there, moved it to Westford.
Are there any stories about the Texas Revolution? About the Alamo, San Jacinto?
No, really. That's what I've read in histories. And, well, some in my science history. I believe Bowie, I think Bowie was a Mason. And I don't know if some of them were. And I read a lot of my science history. I've been a member of my science class about 65 years. And you accumulate some. And I've done something that I think is worthwhile. I put it back in a separate place. One year, one period of time, I had attended lodge 23 years and 9 months without missing any meeting. 23 years, 9 months. Well, I'd only attended 20 years when I went to England, and the Grand Master, they said, Grand Master, do you know of any such, he was there, in England, of his record, he said, I know of no such record in the British domain. He said, and he had me stand up and congratulate me. That was from the Grand Master of over 600,000 Masons. You say I had the best record of any of them. So I think I have a world record in attendance.
Mm-hmm. What kind of work did your father do?
Well, he farmed son. His father died when he was, of course, a baby. And he went out in Texas and worked on the ranch with his uncle, Uncle Boone Christy. He was an old fiddler, one of the best. I have some write-ups in the papers of an old champion. And getting back, my granddaughter, Jill Christy, she was then. She's married now. When she was in college, about the time she was here, she was the Oklahoma state champion fiddler. And I brag about it. I say, my son, he's a good fiddler, and he is. He's twice as good as I am. But his daughter's twice as good as both of us put together. And I was up to the state fair when he won it, and that fella had kind of coached her in it. Boy, he throwed that old cowboy hat that high, he could throw it down and hollered. And it was quite a thrill. But anyway, I think get back to where I was. Might have to help me. But
about your father working on a ranch in Texas?
Oh yeah. And he never was a cowboy. He worked it, and he never would go to rodeos. He didn't like it. He said, well, that was my work when I was around 15, 16 years old. That was work. That wasn't any fun to me. In Brandon and all that, and riding broncs. And he said, I never was much of a bronc rider. I never did train to be. And there was about 4 or 5 boys and 2 sisters there, in his Uncle Boone's family. And he thought a lot of his Uncle Boone. I know it was one of the first time I ever saw him, Daddy cry was, he got a letter that Uncle Boone was dead. And
who's Uncle Boone?
That was his uncle in Texas when he worked for on the ranch. And that was his father.
What ranch was that did he work on?
Oh, it was his own ranch. He had the land. He said one time, first time he came by, he met him in I believe it was a hack. And it's kind of a 4-wheel outfit, or a 2-horse outfit. And he kept riding. He came up to a gate and said, now we're entering my land here. And he kept going, he kept it going, he kept it going. He says, how much longer? He says, well, I'll let you know. He said, it's quite a while, I guess. He'd bought lots of land you go for 25 cents an acre, you see. And he'd bought a lot of that land for cattle.
What was the name of it?
Well, I'll just say it was Christie's. It was Christie's. And now his brand was BC. Caught away from the house, and as he went in the house, he heard his little one of Boone's boys, and his Nan was a girl, one of the girls. She was young, about 6 years old, and he had her down, and he had branded her. They'd made brands out of wire to brand hogs and dogs with. The young ones, you know, they'd be BC, B and a C, and that's what they carried on, you know. I learned here that brand, and it brand dogs and cattle, and rams and hogs, hogs and animals like that. Well, he said, he cussed. What in the hell are you doing? And little fella, he cussed, and he said, by God, I'm a branding man. He said, by God, I've slapped the B to her, and now by God, I'm going to slap the C to her and start that fire together. He said, you're going to play hell. He slapped him clear away from that across the room, and he started scoring. And his aunt came down, she heard him scoring. Jim, what in the world are you doing to my boy? He said, look at your little daughter over there, and you see what I'm doing. And oh, she just smelled that flesh of him. She said, you ought to kill him. He said, oh, Jim, so I'm sorry I said what I did. She said, I don't blame you. And he saw her several times later. One time she wanted to marry him. He said, man, you still have that brand B on your hip? He said, Jim, that brand just plain what when I was 6 years old. That brand on his hip there. Now, wasn't that something? You don't hear things like that very often. Well, I remember things like that, and Dad, I'd jot them down. But,
did you ever talk about the cattle drive?
What?
The cattle drive?
Cattle drive?
Yeah.
Oh, not much, because maybe they sold to other people and didn't have to make any drives up to Kansas. He never intended to own one of those drives. I know he was on a lot of roundups. You know, that was every year. You know.
Tell me about the roundup. What would he say about the roundup?
Oh well, it's just like you probably ought to know about them. They would round up people to get maybe 2 or 3 farmers, and then they'd get some of that together and have their branded, you know, and there'd be some young ones, or maybe some once while there wasn't, but then they'd just sort them out, and the ones that and if they need branding, they'd brand them, and maybe the type of cattle was they could tell by that, but anyway, then they'd get them molded where they belonged, and about once or twice a year, and I don't know how the way they had to tell him, but they do it, and we had an old boy in the he used to visit us at Granite, and he was Cunningham. And he says, Paul Cunningham said, Jim, he's talking about, how was that now? He's talking to some other cousins there, and he was telling about, they had, this other fellow was strange, but he'd lived in that community. This one's been pretty mean bunch of going up. But these people raised Jersey cattle. That was down around Jacksburg. They raised Jersey cattle, and this other family raised whiteface. And this Jersey bull would get out and get over there and breed their whiteface, you know. And God, they just didn't like that at all. So they caught him out one day and they cut him. And he said, yeah, I saw this boy and I know we knew who done it. The Lord knows that little kid in here that brought it up maybe, and we did much blame him. And said we'd probably done the same thing. And but they had him a bull, but he'd be nutty, did he? But that was the same that they did, you know. I'm talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
That was before. That was after Daddy was dead.
Did you work on the farm on the ranch?
No, never did. And he wouldn't go to whatever go to a rodeo. Well, his cousin, John Christy, later on was sheriff of Reagan County, Texas, and as a sheriff, he retired. He'd been sheriff 12 years, and he just didn't want to be alone. Want to go back to his ranch, and so he resigned about a month before his time up, so he'd stay when he run again. And the old boy that won him was the old boy that lived in Greer County, and he was the national champion steer roper. Not careful, but steer roper. And I can't put his name right now, but he come up to Mangum and years later to judge a rodeo. And Dad knew he was there, and he had met him before. And not since he went back there, and he was sheriff several years. He run next year and won it. He said, I'd have never wanted if John Christy run again. So as long as he wanted, he could have it. Yeah, I'd never won it, but he did. But he was sheriff there a long time. I didn't know him, but his cousin. There was several of them. And one time, I saw one young man up there, but he asked Jim if he could still play the French harp out of Dad. And he said, Jim, he still played the French harp, and he was good, and that's the only thing he ever could play. But he was good, and he sang cowboy songs, Dad said to me. But he had an old boy, O'Brien, that was with him, and Dad. Now, I'll tell you something I know in this here. Pretty soon after Dad, about the time he left Texas, he joined the Texas Rangers. He was only 20 years old, and he'd been living now on ranching. And he fought a lot of the Texas Rangers. And it adventure trained. That's why he wanted adventure, just 20 years old. But you had to make bond if you wasn't 21. You had to make bond. You could and join. Well, he made bond and joined, and he was in Company B of Captain Bill McDonald. And I have a book, The Life of Bill McDonald, and he had really had some adventure. He wasn't with him for 5 years, and his mother, he met mother, and he wanted to. She was at her picnic at Arapahoe, but some town there close to Jacksboro. And he had a picnic there, and he was on a mission and going to be up there. And another fellow was with him, O'Brien, and he was O'Brien's sister. She was Sally O'Brien. She was kind of sweet on Dad. She thought he was someday going to pop the question, but he didn't. And so he met my mother, and he was he fell in love with her. And so in about a month, I have some letters that in my mother's old trunk where they wrote, and she wrote one letter, 14 pages, pretty surface. And then he said, well, she'd marry him if he come back. Then that she would if he would resign from Texas Rangers. Well, he said he would. And so when he got back, his letter that he said he was going to be with him another month because he had some little thing, he had some mission to make. So he had a mission to make up Trissy County somewhere. And he captured his man. In this letter, he said, well, I completed my mission, came back, and to San Saba, said I captured my man, and I turned him over to the sheriff of Comanche County. And he kind of see that be with Comanche. But anyhow, and he said, I'll be starting back to this town there. Where was it? Wood, not Wood, but what's the thing right now? But Antelope. And said, I'll be starting back in a day or two. And so then when the day he resigned, said, well, I resigned from the Texas Rangers yesterday, and I'm on my way back. But I hope you haven't changed your mind when I get there. And it was just things that people would still ask. But I tell you, it's history itself, those letters are. And
What are some of the things that he did while in the Texas Rangers?
Well, he told me a lot of things, but a lot of that he wanted to forget. It was pretty rough. It's some narrative. They one time, Captain Bill McDonald was one of the most noted of all Texas Rangers. I have his autograph, and he don't tell that all himself. He tells some story now, but there's another fellow writer, and Payne, A.B. Payne. But anyhow, he one time he got wounded, Captain Bill, and close to the Wichita Falls, and out near west of Wichita Falls. What the hell I wanted to do. And anyhow, this town, they was to go up in the big pasture country, part of Texas, again, east of Frederick, and try to capture a Texas outlaw named Joe Beckham. Now, Joe Beckham had been the sheriff of Mobile County, and he had misappropriated funds, and then he had to shoot a fellow too. And this fellow Kenfolk got, and he turned that outlaw himself, and they was going to try to capture him, and they heard he was up in that part of the country. So this McDonald's nephew and two other rangers, that dad was one of them, that went up there to try to capture Joe Beckham, and they found out that he was holed out, up in a little half dugout. Well, they went around that dugout quite a ways off, and they soon found out he was still there, and he'd fire back, and Dad had a horse shot out from him. And in this history, it tells about one ranger getting a horse shot. I don't mention that by name. Getting a horse shot out from him. And Dad told me about that. That was the nearest he ever got killed. Well, then it got so cold in the wintertime, snow and really extremely cold, they run out of groceries, while they're washing that dugout. So they sent Dad and another fellow back to a little store that passed through so long back. And while they were gone, when they came back, they bought some groceries from that. So this man said, well, we've been gone quite a little bit, a half a day or more. And somebody said, I haven't heard of shots from there in quite a while. And he said, I don't know whether he's still living or not. He may be dead. And then on the other hand, he may be playing possum, wanting us to approach, and puff at us. So they got on 4 different sides, and a little at a time they'd shoot. Get no answer, so they finally closed in, and he had been killed. But I don't know whether he was killed before Daddy left or not, and they don't know who shot him. In fact, they didn't try to find out. And anyhow, Joe Beckham was killed. And every once in a while, I lived just half a block from the real fine city library. It's a family, and I can get any books I haven't got them. I can get any history books I want. They're ordering for me. And I've had books on Texas outlaw, and it tells about Joe Beckham quite a bit.
Do you remember any of the cowboy songs your father sang to you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember, long little doggy for something about Wyoming will be your next home and so forth. I know that, but Wyoming is going to be your next home. So something about get along, little doggies. With there's something in there for them. Wyoming will be your next home. I know that. And then he always had to. My father had more fun than anybody, and he was always making statements. On the rough side, he'd see an old boy come along the street, and he'd say, now that goes to promising young man, you promise you anything, just things like that. And I got it some down not long ago, somewhere that he's always bringing up, and he was full of meanness, that was. I worked with him a long time. When I moved up here in 43, he said he couldn't hardly stand it for a day that he sent him hear me say something. What's that? And he's been gone so very bad in 59. But his brother died. She was 93 when he passed away. My father was 55. Father was when he died in 51. He was 76 when he passed. So I'm a lot older than Daddy. Well, I've been past my 410, 17 years ago. But what's that picture over there on that? I didn't say that to you.
This?
Yeah.
This you?
Let's see, when I was a freshman in high school in Granite County, we was great on track down there in football. And Mangum was the big town, and we was a little town. And we had the first in Granite County to have consolidated, the first county anywhere to have consolidated schools. We had 14 consolidated high schools in that town. I'm not bragging a little bit, but I love gold medals to show. I was the all-around champion this time of all of 16 of those high schools. I was all-around champion of all of them. And I won it 2 years in track. And the next year, I won it again. Then before next thing you know, I went and this was a movie. And I missed then, and I come back, I didn't try for it. And I want to run my 100-yard dash. If I could win that, that's all. I won that, and I said I was going to let it stay.
When did your family move to Mango?
Granite? Yeah, Granite.
Well,
Yeah, that
you said you were born in Velma.
Yeah, well, they moved from Velma over to Davis, Oklahoma, and some of those country towns, communities, into Suffer, and then they moved from Suffer over to Mill Creek, and that was near Tishomingo. Then in 1907, we moved from Mill Creek to Greer County, and that was 1907.
Never stayed here, Jay.
This is relative adjustment.
Tell me that.
I tell you that, and I have to tell other people about that, and I both about, but we were getting ready to come to Greer County, but now these names don't mean anything. But we had a family, the Lowrys, that Connie, I learned that. And Mr. Lowry, he had his boys, and we want to move out to dumping machine. Well, he hadn't gathered his crop yet, and he wanted to go right then. So Daddy had sold his restaurant. He had a restaurant. He sold it at Mill Creek on that about 1940. And he and my two older brothers, and my younger brother, of course, we wasn't big enough to do much cotton picking in. We moved out. I was about 8 years old. We moved out on this farm, the Larry place we called it. It was a log house, a fireplace in both ends, and we were out in the field picking cotton, and we didn't have any phones or no newspapers. We didn't know what was going on. What those things? Jim Bush was going for it. But here comes a fellow from the town and been down with a bale of cotton. He cussed a little bit. I'm not saying that. What in the hell was all that noise for? Oh, he said, the banks opened yesterday. Well, the banks is a panic of 1907, and the banks were closed. And they didn't, but they opened, there was a way that permission was to open on state of the day, in Oklahoma became the state. I don't know how many banks Oklahoma's closed down, but anyhow, I don't know about anywhere else, probably not. But anyhow, he said, yep, the bank's open today. As a milkman. And then he started off and get up. Oh yeah, I said Oklahoma became a state today. And that was the second consideration of him. And I'll never forget that. He said, "Yep, the bank's open today." And this how he said. And I was about 8 years old. So and that was in November the 7th, and in December, the last of December, we moved to Greer County, and we lived there until I moved up here.
Why'd you move to Greer County?
Well, we had some relatives out there, and Dad was always wanting to move. You know, he was always wanting to move. Never owed any rent. You know, that's what you said the cheapest way to pay rent was to move. And he never owed any rent. He was an honest man. And he always told me, he said, boy, I've heard him, he tell me dozens of times go up. He never called me son or boy. He said, boy, always remember, be honest. Pay your debts. I've heard him say that 100 times. Be honest, pay your debts. And if he ever, he had a book, records of mother when he passed away. They'd written there, every once in a while, the fact that they didn't know anything. We don't know anybody. Dad would say, we don't know anybody, nothing. And he was kind of proud of that. Well, during that depression, it was hard to keep knowing people. You just couldn't know it.
That was Depression, 1970?
Oh, I know Depression. 30s and 30s. Oh, that was awful. I raised a family through that and kept them in school. And I didn't get on WK, didn't have to. But I had a fine garden. I had kept my cow and chickens and hogs and killed my own meat. And we lived, but I didn't have much money. We'd get enough money out and make out and do some painting or something on the side. And I'd get enough to get some flour maybe and do essentials, you know. And we get a lot of wild fruit down on the river there, grapes and plums, and we got along all right. And I bought a couple kids in school.
Who were some of the prominent people in Mango?
Who was what?
Some of the prominent people in Mango.
Well, see, I didn't know very many in Mango. Well, I just that's the county seat, and all of them are gone now. There's none of them there. There's one man that world veteran that I know. Well, there's two. There's a doctor there. But he's been in and out of hospital, maybe in a nursing home yet. And then another fellow there, Esther Dawson, was in the sheriff's office. And here just about a year ago, a boy there in very good story, that passed away, and I can't think of his name now, but there's not many, and not 5, 6, 7 that I knew in Mangum in the old days.
Did you know the Busbys?
Busby's around Granite?
Around Granite and Mangum and that
Yes,
area?
yeah. Henry Busby was one, and let's see. I know there's a Busby in World War One. Henry was. He came home, and I don't know. He seemed like he was not satisfied about things. He sold oils like gallon oil and things like that, and he all at once we never heard from him anymore. He was in that 132nd Machine Battalion, and a lot of boys were in that part of the country, and they hit some tough stuff. And Henry disappeared, never did know what. And his sister lived there long, I never did know what became of it.
Did you know of Vince Busby?
Who?
Vince Busby?
No.
But he was born in the 20s.
Yeah, well, probably. And Henry and this Roy Busby, I believe, was up. And one of them, Busby boy, he played baseball, and we played at country schools out there and places and towns around. We'd walk to Longwell for 8, 9 miles, or walk down the railroad track and play a ball game and come back and try to get started back so we'd stop the railroad and go swimming, you know. But anyhow, he was Roy Busby. He was gonna. We was playing them out at what they call Louder Schoolhouse, and we had a pitcher, great big old overgrown boy, and he was just big for his age and a good pitcher. Well, old Roy Busby wore a derby hat and a vest and something, anyhow, anything in the world it should have been wearing to play baseball in. And that made our Brandon boy, made him so doggone mad. He said, he cussed at it. First time that son of a bitch comes to bat, and he wore celluloid collar. You heard of celluloid collars? Well, just cover rubber duck. He said, the first time that comes to bat, I'm going to knock that damn collar off, you know. And I'll be anything if the first time he comes to bat, first ball over, he hit that collar, it looked like he knocked in 1,000 pieces, just scattered everywhere. He was. I told you, didn't I? I told you. And so I'll never forget that. That was something. And I know that same game of football, baseball, I played first base, and I cleaned the bat, and a little boy named seen somebody there that Nance, the pitcher, good boy, good friend of mine. He hit me right on the temple. He couldn't help it. Just knocked me cold. I just saw stars, you know. Down I went, but I soon snapped out of the window. But, oh man.
Now you were the all-around champion in 17 and 18 in track.
Yeah. And I didn't try for it when I came back.
Yeah.
A boy named John, somebody from Venable. Venable was he'd always beat me in the broad jump. He was done about 22 feet in high school. That was a good jump anytime. I could jump. I jumped 20 foot, but that's all. But I had the higher jump, and I couldn't get high. But I won job. I went up here in the state meet one time in the high jump. And I didn't win first place, third place, and gosh, I wasn't 5'6", 5'7" tall. And I jumped just a little over that, not much. But and hurdles. There wasn't many that knew anything about hurdling, and high hurdles, I was a high jumper, just where I kind of had to get over the hurdle. And I'd win in that. One year I didn't enter an over hurdle. I could have won it. I won more than Mangum. We had to beat Mangum. Oh gosh, it's a bigger town, you know. Well, that year I beat them. We beat them, and won the cup back. And then the next year I made 27.5 points in the county. They let you run just as many as you want to. Well, I wanted some of the boys on our team to run some, and what I said, they'd be all right with the coach. So I won 5 first places, and then I placed in relays 2.5 points. And I won more points. Mangum, I think, won 22 points. The whole high school did. And I won more than the whole damn high school. Yeah.
Why did you join the Navy?
Well, see the world through a porthole, I guess. But no, I adventure. I always thought, and my brother was younger than that, he joined, and the boy that was all-around champion the year before he was the Navy. He was out 17, he's 40, 18 to get in. And the boy was 17 there, one with us. He wasn't heavy enough, this other boy was, and he like about something like a half a pound or more, and the grandma said, Sonny, he said, oh, I like to go with these boys, they're my neighbors, and he said, oh, I feel for you. He said, I'll give you every ounce I can give you. He says, do you like bananas? He said, yes, I like them pretty well. He said, right down below here, we knew it was a fruit stand. He said, you go down there, said, I've always heard, and he didn't tell me to do this, he said, I've always heard that a fellow that eat a lot of bananas and drink a lot of water, he gain weight. And dang, he took off down there with the old cupboard down up there, I remember. And he just filled up. He never wanted another banana long. He come up there and he weighed over a half pound, over what he weighed, about a pound more. And let him in. I said, that thing just happened like that.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, when did you go through basic training in the Navy? Boot camp?
San Diego.
San Diego.
No, wait, first in Mare Island up by San Francisco. And I was there about 2 months, and went to San Diego, and I was there about 3 months or 3, 4 months, I would say.
Tell me about boot camp.
Oh, God. Well, of course, now we had drill. It was like Army, the same drill they had. We didn't at first, but they did soon after we started. And then I got to attend my old boot camp at Mare Island 2 years ago. My daughter and husband took me over there, and I told this fella, I thought it was going to be fun, you know, and I couldn't keep from trying to blame me. Well, my brother was gone, and we had about 5 boys from Missouri County there. Now they're all gone, and then the 6th we call the lost battalion. We went through that, and then went to San Diego. We went together, went aboard ship together. We transferred on to the New York and several ships and stayed together. We went to submarine. That's where I sailed to see the world through a porthole. We didn't have any. Well, we had them, but they'd be through the water. Anyway, and when we discharged, we been discharged the same dang day at Denver, Colorado. At 6. We called ourselves the 5th Battalion. But we were, the unlucky state that we were not. We pulled out each other. And when we got back to Granite, Aldous, this boy from Alice, he was just 16 years old when he was in the Navy. And he started school again. We did too. And I finished my 2 years in 1 year to catch up in the class. And my brother, he finished high school in 2 years. He became a journalist, and he read a lot.
What did you do in the Navy? What was your
Seaman in the Seaman Battalion.
I mean, what was your main duties on board?
Oh, it'd be rope work and deck work, scrubbing this and scrubbing that, and then, of course, in target practice, I have a certain place on the gun to fire.
What kind of guns you have?
Well, mostly there's 5 and 6 inch guns that I have.
Are you on the battleship New York?
No. This is on Yorktown.
Yorktown.
Yeah, I was on the battleship New York, but when Yorktown, we put it out of commission, the 12th of June in 1919, and it was commissioned in 88, and it's called a gunboat. And I have the story of the old Yorktown, written by Robert D. Evans, the old admiral. He became an admiral, and he was the captain of Yorktown back before I was on it. And boy, I'd finished some book out there, and he named him, tells about the old ship, just like you was there. Mm-hmm. And then when we got put out of commission, I got aboard the submarine. Then we went to the islands, and we stayed there at Pearl Harbor quite a while, and I was transferred to New York there, and we stayed on it not too long, 2 months, and we visited the old volcanoes or anything around the islands. And came back, and then I discharged at Denver.
Tell me about life on a submarine.
Oh, I can't tell you about that. I hated it. I didn't like it at all. And lots of people liked it. They liked it for the reason that it was better pay, and they were the first. They had better chow than anybody. Better eat than anybody. Better cook. But they just were like a bunch of rats on there, and just it wasn't like later on. There were more men, of course, on later, but there was more room for men. And
where did you sleep in the submarine?
just anywhere we could. Sometimes it'd be pitch a temporary hammock in there somewhere. We'd sleep on out between something there, or the side of a gun, and somewhere just in where we could.
What was the name of the submarine?
It was the R boat. This was the R-18.
R-18.
That was the flagship of the flotilla.
What was the main function of the submarine? What did it do?
Well, of course, not in World War One. They did lots of patrol duty, and they sank some ships. We never did combat enemy personnel. One time we thought we had, we fired finally with an empty box. And the thing went up there and just, but we thought it might be a telescope under there too, and something else. But I did mostly patrol duty.
How deep were those submarines in the ocean? How deep?
No. I'm sorry, I should remember more about it, but we would go down where we spread out. That's the first time I went down out Pearl Harbor, and we was out going around to the Honolulu, and we went out in the ocean waves going around, and just where we were, I thought that was my first trip to go underneath there, and I need water, so I was scary, and in 1950 we'd been in one of the F-boats. F4 had sunk out there. They went right over the same water, and I couldn't keep the thing staying in it, and then if we killed or anything. But it had an accident or something. But then I got on to New York. I just like living in a big city, and I didn't like that at all. And I was damn glad to get out there and get home. It was past due. They got away. I got stuck over there about 5 or 6 months.
What, in Hawaii?
Huh?
In Hawaii?
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, what did you do in Hawaii?
Damn little. Just we had one thing. We helped on. I passed submarine, but I had my quarters on the old Beaver submarine.
It's just that way you can just see, and strong men shall bow themselves, and this and that, and you find that out as it comes along, as you go along. Now, it doesn't. I don't worry about things because there's no use of that. I don't really did good in the world, but extra stuff. I just have to, like a doctor, I have to depend on them because they are doctors. You know.
Mm-hmm.
What is your home Oklahoma City?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I moved there in 1907, and they came around the other day wanting some information about some old booger that, like me, that was knew something about when Oklahoma became a state. Well, I remember it quite well. And in 1907, and we were out, we were getting ready to move to Granite County in November, and we was out getting a cup of cotton. And the gin whistles were blowing, and we didn't know what it was all about. No telephones and no daily newspapers like we have now. And, well, the fellow came along bent to gin with a bale of cotton. So we said, "What's all those whistles are blowing for a while ago?" Oh, he says, the banks opened today. Well, they did. But also, Oklahoma became a state, but they were more interested, most people on the banks. It was called the Panic of 1970, and the banks opened that day, same date as, that had something to do with the date. But anyway, he says, yep, the banks opened today, and I remember just as well as yesterday. And he said, then he started, well, yes, and Oklahoma became a state today, you know, in territory, in Oklahoma territory. Now that was, their main concern was the banks opening. But that's when we moved to Greer County.
So, were you in Greer County when that happened?
No, I was down in Johnson County when that happened.
What? Tishomingo?
Close to Tishomingo. Well, there's a town, Mill Creek, near there. And that's close to Tishomingo. And that's when I was born over east of Duncan, a little locality called Velma, near Velma. And that's
When is your birthday?
when December the 19th. I was 84, my last birthday. And I was born there. And then we moved over to Sulphur, to the old Lowrance Ranch there. And my youngest brother was born there, and I've been back there a time or two, and I located the place where he was born there and took him with me. And took some pictures of that. But then this Lowrance Ranch, they had a finest spring of water in the country there. And the old man of Lowrance is a big home. He's always entertaining groups there. Come along, and is always welcome to stay. And then right out south of it was below where the group of timber on the hill was a lake, and that we'd go down there and gather watercress and ned and kill what we call mud hens. But anyway, after we lived there a while, we moved over to Mill Creek, and that's where we lived in 1907. That was about 1903. We moved over there.
Did you know any Dillinghams at Mill Creek?
Gillingham.
Dillingham.
Gillingham. No, I hadn't been back there to know anyone. Only a few old timers years ago. I used to go back and visit. I missed to visit the old cemeteries where some of our folks are buried. But then, the time we got out in Greer County, the saloons were all closed. And always this one thing to remember. Most of the time, you asked to talk about a early day town here. They had 14 saloons, either 13 or 14, no less, no more, no less. There's always that. You'll find you hear it all through. There's that many, and it almost show you where they were. Some of the old timers.
How come so many saloons?
Well, in the early days, the cowboy, they were people coming and going, and in the West they had more saloons. They just have an open saloon street, and then after 7 they couldn't have an open saloon. But anyway, they'll always tell you, maybe there was 7 or 8 there, but they'll all remember it as 13 or 14. They'll say that. It's got a habit of it. Whether they was that many or not, they'll say that. And I know that where we were down, there's about 2 or 3 in the little town where we were. Then Cooktown down in Greer County, there wasn't any. But that's my remembrance of saloons is not a very nice thing to remember. They were pretty rough. I saw 2 or 3 people shot out on the streets, and they'd come out. One fell out when I was just a boy. They let us look in there, and he got shot, and his galluses or suspenders hung on a nail, and he was hanging there. But
was that Mill Creek?
It was Mill Creek.
Yeah.
But I never want to see any of those open saloons anymore.
What caused the panic of 1907?
I'm sorry. I imagine that I could dig into some Oklahoma history. I have a few Oklahoma history books, some of them textbooks that I kept, and then I have some, but I never have. Don't remember reading about it.
How bad was that? What happened?
Well, I know the banks were closed, and I don't know for how long, but they I guess to get readjusted or reorganizing, just like any bank that they see might fail, and sometimes they can keep it from failing by closing and reorganizing, just like one we had here not long ago. And they straightened out now, and they put more capital into it, and I think it's stronger than ever was. But I don't know what caused that, but that was 1907. And well, those days we mostly did a lot of trading and raised all our stuff to eat and stuff like that, and didn't do a lot of banking like people do these days. So it didn't worry us any. In fact, we hadn't thought about that being very young lady that whistles were blowing. But
Who is your father?
Jim Christy, his name was.
Where's he from?
Well, he was from Texas. His side of the house, they came from Indiana, and I found that out when he was 12, his father. He's in Texas just long enough to be of age at the time of the Civil War, and he enlisted in the cavalry, and at the old Fort Washita, they called it, somewhere down towards Texas. And anyway,
Was this your father?
No, my grandfather.
Your grandfather.
And I didn't know him personally. He passed away before I was born. He passed away in the 30s. But I found out his old, who his officers were and the outfits he was in, and then I kept reading, and from there, we have a library at college has the official records of the rebellion in there, both sides, you see. You can find out anything you want to in there, and it's not just fiction that's in there, it's facts. And I can depend on that more. Sometime I'll read and they'll mention there the sources from those official records. Anyhow, I found out in Texas and Arkansas, not Texas, but Louisiana and Arkansas, several, and up Missouri, where he had, they call it 22nd Texas Cavalry, and they was in Walker's Division. They call it, they call them the Greyhound, Walker's Greyhound, because they move so fast, and that was one thing. And then they fought up in Newtonia, Missouri, and I had some correspondence with an old fellow years ago that was in his outfit, and he'd get pretty old in from Greenville, Texas, and he knew him personally. Then he came on down, there was Battle of Prairie Grove. There was 25,000 men there on both sides, and that 15 on one side and 10 on the other. I've been there, then I've been to some other little place where there's skirmished in, and Louisiana. Well, that first major battle in there was Mansfield, Battle of Mansfield up in the northern part of Louisiana. Then they won there from Banks. That was he was still in Walker's division, and then I forget what he was Captain Stevens regiment. But anyway, they won that battle from Banks, and he came up the Red River Expedition. He came up there to try to go on over and capture Texas. Well, they got that far, and they got whipped there, and almost up to Natchitoches or something going there. But anyhow, Mansfield, and then a few days later, they retired. Banks did back, and then they whipped them again at Pleasant Hill. But I have all the history of my grandfather's outfits there. Then, it's kind of a coincidence, my grandfather Cross on my mother's side, he was about the same age, and he was under Magruder's army there. Well, in fact, he'd been with Sibley's army out in New Mexico. Now, some people don't realize that they had quite a bit of the Civil War out there in New Mexico, but we got whipped out there. I'll say we are Confederate.
Yeah.
And then Sibley, he was well, they just cracked through. He was quite a drunkard, and so they took his command away from him and they put him under Magruder when he got back to Texas. They had to retire from there. And then he got in Magruder's army. He went over on the coast and up to the same in Louisiana where my other grandfather, and they fought at Mansfield and Louisiana. They both were in the same battles, but in different divisions. But I visited a lot of those battlefields, and I can tell you a lot of things that I know about and I've read about, and I have history about it. I have one book, the Texas in the Confederacy, that gives me a lot of lowdown on the different outfits. And on January the 1st in '63, the Federals had charge of they'd captured Galveston, but the Magruders of his outfit recaptured the Galveston, and doing that, they floated down the bayou from up around Pasadena, it is now, Houston, and the Bayou City and the Neptune were two river boats, and they were in the cavalry, but they floated, and they were attached, and they had bales of cotton all around to protect them, and they were small boats. And they recaptured the Harriet Lane, which was the flagship of the Federal, the Union Navy. And that was the first time in history that a cavalry unit captured a Navy vessel. And the Harriet Lane was the first man of war named for a woman. And they took part in the capture, where is it, over at Charleston, what is it?
What, Fort Sumter?
Yeah, and I have some here that says it fired the first shot, but now I wouldn't be fussy about that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, that was the name for a woman. It was on the 1st of January as number one, and the 1st Cavalry unit to capture a Navy vessel. And there's several firsts connected with that. But they went aboard at night and just captured in a hand-to-hand fight, and he told me about that. I didn't get that from history on from him. Didn't take enough pointers I should have from them. But anyway, that up to the Civil War, they from there back, I know a little. My grandfather, Christy, I say, came from Indiana. I think he was born there. And grandfather Cross came from, originally born in Vermont and came through New York and up the Erie Canal country and when he was just a little, raised in around close to Springfield in Illinois until he's 12 years old and he went to Texas. But they lived on a farm there and they had a large home. They had a big family and they had a large home there and people would come along. They don't what to call a turnpike. And they people stay all night there and eat with them. And he said a number of times that Abraham Lincoln had stayed all night with them, and said always, as history tells you, he was a great story writer. Well, then they'd listen and the old folks would say, "Now, children, it's time to go to bed." Well, we went upstairs, but we might have got ready for bed. We slipped back down to the foot of the stairs, and the parlor was across across the hall, and they couldn't see us. We sat there and listened to them talking. So I think the old folks knew we were there, but of course it was proper for them to go to bed early, And he'd tell stories. Said, "Oh, he was a great storyteller." Well, we knew all that, so I kind of bragged that I shook the hand that shook the hand of Abraham Lincoln, like in the old days of old John L. Sullivan, that great prize fighter, heavyweight, for years. They'd say, "You're shaking the hand that shook the hand of John L. Sullivan, sir." It was a great honor, so I felt that way. But then, my great-grandfather, who was Illinois, he was with the Illinois outfit in the battle, in the war, 46 along there with Old Mexico. And he came with that outfit, and he was captured by the Mexicans and was prisoner for 2 or 3 years. And when the war was over, they turned him loose. Well, in coming down there, they went through Texas, and there were just a few settlers then. And he liked the looks of that country, new country. And then when he came back, they turned him loose. Why, they came back through there, and so he decided to move there, and he did. That's along, somewhere in the, probably in the 48 or 50.
What was his name, your great-grandfather?
The old grandfather was Jacob Cross. And then his son, then Riley, or we call it Riley, Uncle Riley, but Riley Cross. Then they settled in there in around close to Weatherford, Texas, up the head of Long Creek, Mother always told me. And then the family grew up there. And then when, after, just before the war, grandfather was around 20, 21, and he was married. And mother was, I think, the oldest child. But anyhow, she remembers quite well when the day that he was back on a furlough, and one of his cousins said he was on a furlough, and it was to go back the next day he was, and he came in and said, woke him up, he's taken out. I said, "Riley, old boy, you don't have to go back, it's all over." And he said, talk about rejoicing, there was a lot of it. And so then he married, later on married my grandmother, and her name was Rebecca Baker. And so then they lived there, mother and all her family was born around close to Jacksonville, Texas. And then Daddy's folks, they come in around Greenville or Dallas first, and my daddy had a great uncle that owned 160, you can hear these stories, but I've heard it from other sources too. He owned a quarter-section land right in the heart of Dallas, Texas. And it was just a village like then, way back in those days. But they decided they'd move over close to Greenville, and that's where they used to say the blackest land, the whitest people. But they took that sign down. And so they have, he sold his land there and moved there. It's always a better farming community. And then Daddy was born over there. And then Mother, of course, she was born there in Parker County. But then eventually Mother's folks moved up just a little above there around, not too far from Jacksonville, and then Daddy, when he became about 16, he wanted to join the Texas Ranger. He thought that would be really some adventure, like a young man will. And now it's like a highway patrol or something. They won't be that many. But anyway, he was around San Saba, and he was under Captain Bill McDonald, the most famous old Texas Ranger. Not because he hadn't been my daddy, didn't come to be, but everybody in history tells that. And I have his history by A.B. Payne, his book, and then I have a lot of magazines, older, Western have that, and I have in Texas history, I have a lot of about Captain Bill McDonald. But anyway, he was on a mission from San Saba coming up to towards Wichita Falls, some of them going on up to, I think, to maybe Amarillo. But and I think he came by Fort Worth later. But anyway, a fella he was with, he called said Jordan, and Jordan he said, but his name Jordan, his pal, and he wasn't in the Rangers, and he's making a trip with him, just to visit some folks around Antelope, Texas. That's close to Jacksonville. And Dad was a foot racer, and he won all just over and over. He just never wasn't beaten. They claim his people know him beaten one time he knew of in East Texas. And so he they had a picnic, and he'd always stop, and if there's any foot race, he'd enter, they'd pay a little something for them. Well, he'd run against horses and mules, anything. This day was a race mule, they call them, but it was a good, real fast, hard to beat. So this friend of his bet his horse, his saddle, his gun, hat, everything he had, and boots on Dad to win in that race. And he said if he'd have lost, Dad said we'd have both had to road back to double horseback back to San Saba, Texas, several counties between there. But he won the race, and he won all that. And he met my mother then. My mother was a widow lady. She had her husband died in the state of Washington. She had 5 children, but she was older than my daddy, about 10 years or more. But they fell in love right then, at first sight in a way. And so then when he came back through, he stopped to see her again. And then, they got pretty sweet on each other. And finally, she said, well, she would marry him if he would resign from Texas Rangers. It was too dangerous, and he'd have to be away from home a lot. And he said he would. So he went on back to San Saba with that intentions of resigning. And I have some letters in Daddy's and Mother's old trunk. I didn't know they were there till I looked through the old trunk. And some of them were pretty long letters. Some of them pretty syrupy too. And so anyhow, he said, I'm resigning from the Texas Ranger Force. And he said, I've got one more mission. And he said, up in this several counties away. And it took him about 2 weeks. Well, then about 2 weeks, there's another letter that says, I returned from mission. I captured my man and turned him over to the sheriff of a certain county down there. I forget what it was now. But anyway, Comanche County, I believe it was. And he said, now I resigned from the Ranger Force yesterday, and I'm getting ready. I'm returning up to this county where it was, Jack County. And he says, be horseback, because I'll have to stop and clean up once in a while. It took a little while to travel up that far. And he says, I hope you haven't changed your mind when I get there. But they married, and that was in '97. And then they moved up to the Indian Territory, and that was where I was born. But he had a rather strenuous life, and his father died when he was young, and he worked out in San Saba on a ranch for years. And when he was just boy, 15, 16, and then after that, that's where he became interested in the Texas Rangers, San Saba. And I have a lot of history of the Ranger Force. But
what were some of the most interesting cases he worked on?
Well, I don't know. He told me quite about it. He never talked much about it. They didn't. It's something he just kind of wanted to forget about that. And one I can tell you this, and I have the story in this book of Captain Bill McDonald by, and I loaned it and several other books in Navy. I was in the Navy World War I, and I loaned several books that pertain to the Navy to some kinfolks. Don't never loan books to kinfolks, because they'll lose them for you and think nothing of it. Don't worry about it at all. And so I lost 3 fine books by loaning to kinfolks, and finally I was able to get them back through a used book company, and I finally got this Texas Ranger book back just about 6 months ago from California. My daughter out there got it for me. But anyway, it tells in there about this commission, or mission rather. He was with it, of course, and they were up around Wichita Falls in Electra along in there, and Bill was living in Electra, Texas then, and Father was with it, and they were stationed in probably Wichita Falls or Fort Worth, and they came out and they were assigned to go up into the Indian Territory, which was part of, around Frederick. That was part of Greer County then, and out east of Frederick was what they call a big pasture country. Well, Joe Beckham out in, I believe it was Motley County, Texas, was a sheriff out there, but he had to, in his work there, he had to shoot a man, or did, if it was necessary, and he had to kill a man. Well, this fellow's relatives took it up, and they made it so hard for him that he left that part of the country, and he finally, with Joe Beckham, and he finally became an outlaw, and they were going to try to capture him. They knew, they'd heard that he was up in this, a lot of them, you know, they run off and go into the Indian Territory and played like that. And so they did there in that Greer County. And so he assigned his nephew, and I don't remember the nephew's name, and another fellow, and then my daddy. There was three, to go up there and try to capture Joe Beckham. Well, old Bill had been shot up in there in an engagement, and he hadn't recovered yet, and he couldn't make the trip himself, so they sent them. Well, it's the winter time, it's bad weather, snowy weather. Well, anyway, when they got almost up in that part of the country, they passed a little store there, and they got some supplies, and they could locate the place where he's probably holed up in an old half dugout. Well, they finally found out that he was there, but if I saw his horse or something, they recognized that maybe, or had been told about it. And so he was by himself then. Old Red Buck, an old outlaw in western Oklahoma in the early days, Red Buck was one that was with him a while, but they had left, come back to Oklahoma. And so there's quite a lot of shots exchanged there, and finally it got so cold and all, and they run out of supplies, so he sent these fellows, it was two of them then, yeah, and back, and one fellow stayed there, and sent Dad and this back to a little store there and to get some supplies. Well, Dad had the horse shot out from under him there in that game. It tells in here about the horse being shot out from under him in this book. And one said, I read a story there where there was two, but he just mentioned the one, so that was the nearest he ever got killed. But anyway, when they came back, well, they said, this fellow's left there, said, I don't know, said, what's happened, said, hadn't been any shots come from that half dugout in quite a while. And so they divided, went on three different positions around him, and approached just a little time, and they still couldn't hear any shots. And so when they reached the dugout, he had been killed, but they don't know whether it was about the time they left, and it could have been some of them, or it could have been this man, and he doesn't know. But anyhow, that was his real toughest engagement. But these commissions, a lot of time they'd go in. They had authority to all over Texas to enter the counties, and they had more higher authority than the county officers would. And sometimes the county officers would be a member of a gang, and they would be guilty of a lot of wrongdoing, and they would sometime arrest the county officials. And sometimes they'd come in and said, one time I hired out as a dishwasher in a restaurant. And somebody they suspicion maybe of robbing something somewhere, and when they moved where located there, they would suspicion of being doing that, but if they're spending a little too much money, you know, according to what they was making, they did just a lot of detective work going on there. He said, I hired out one time as dishwasher and stayed there a couple of weeks around the place, and I finally found, and said when we did, we'd arrest a man and take him on in. Maybe the county officer wouldn't know anything about it. They had that authority. But he then sometime he'd hire out as a hand on a ranch. He said, I didn't like that because I wasn't a cowboy, but I would just lay low. They used to, and the FBI have done that, you know, and so that was kind of like FBI in Texas. But that was a disruptor. But then when he retired and mother got married, he moved up into the Indian Territory then.
Did you say that your grandfather was at Fort Washita?
One place, his old bunkmate, they call it, said they enlisted at some uncertain division, certain regiment at old Fort Washita, known as something else. And I don't know whether that's the Fort Washita that they have, you know, worked over down there, and or not. I'm not sure about that. But anyhow, it says then after the war, they didn't fight any in East Oklahoma. Part of them did. Down there, a fellow named Cooper, but most of their fighting was over in Louisiana and Arkansas, there in Missouri. But when they finally at the Battle of Yellow Bow, that was over on the Mississippi, coast of the Mississippi River, and that's the last engagement, and they run banks across the river there, between that coast there. And then when the war was over about that time, why, neither one of those divisions surrendered. They were supposed to stack arms, you know, but they left there and went to, Grandfather Christy went to Harrisburg, Texas, which is part of Houston now, and they just said, now, go home. And they just went all directions, left and went to their homes. And the same, Granddad's division the same way. And it tells that in history. Neither one of them suffered the humiliation of surrendering, you know, and stacking arms. They just turned loose and they just went home. That was the way it was. And it started over farming again, you know. And that. But
you say you were in the Navy during World War I?
World War I. My brother and I were in together. And I have been a member of the American Legion now 64 years, and I have all my American Legion cards. I have them all. And about the only one in the state, I think it does now. And so, and my brother was in with me, and we didn't have any much rough experiences at all. I just have mostly guard duty up and down the coast and places like that.
What'd you do in the Navy?
I was in a seaman branch, and I was at my first ship. I went through boot camp at Mare Island, California. That's up to San Pablo Bay up there, and I'd never been back there. And last year I visited my daughter in California, Sacramento, and they took me over to, and I got to see my old boot camp and looked across the channel there, and I didn't go over out on the ground because I didn't need to, and it took a lot of, you couldn't hardly get over that going through a lot of red tape, but I could see the barracks where they'd been, the same old drill ground, the hospital buildings up on, it gave me quite a thrill. Only thing is, my brother was with me then, and he's gone. 5 or 6 boys from our community, where we lived in Granite County, had been, and they're all gone now, so I enjoyed it in a way, and then it made me feel a little sad. We had our meals on there most, and we had unloaded the supplies. God, like we never got rid of it. Unloaded the supplies from that to the docks and take them to the warehouses there, and then we established a submarine base there. See, that's across the channel from the Navy base. Gosh dang, and I could swim as a little over a mile across there, and I'd swim across there a lot of times. And one time we almost across there, and there's partly quite a bit of salt water in it, and it's easy to swim in. And I got almost across and blowed the recall. We had to come back, and God dang, like quite a ways to get going. Had to turn around and start back, and I know it was a damn big old flat bottom boat come along there, and
barge or something, and it just made waves like it's out there. Now I'm telling you, I thought I'd never make it, but we got back in time all right. We hadn't much to do, and we didn't have to do any drill work or anything. It's just work on the most around the subs there, and not much in.
You get to Honolulu?
Oh yes, yeah.
What did Honolulu look like during World War I?
Oh, I'll tell you, fella, it's so much different. I wouldn't even want to go there anymore. I wouldn't want to. Won't care to at all. I could go any day. My granddaughters is a multimillionaire. She and her husband. They have a lot of stores, records and tapes, and they have about 40 or 50 stores now. And sometime in one day they'll run $15,000, $20,000 in cash. And I'm not bragging about it. They're just same old kids they were.
Yeah.
But anyway, huh?
How big was Honolulu back then?
Oh, let me say 150, 200,000. And it's scattered quite a bit. And we go up in the valleys there and visit the people that live back in the way they live. I wanted to go. I said, I'll pass this way again. I want to see my brother. All in the hell he wanted to do is go ashore and play pool. And I'd always pick me apart, and we'd go back and take a sandwich or something, and go back in those valleys, you know, and maybe it'd be an old church back there, or a little village or something, and to me that was worthwhile.
Well, tell me about some of the people you met up in the hills.
Well, most of them, so many of them were Hawaiian and part. I have maybe half, a lot of mixed with Chinese and Portuguese mixed with them. And there were a lot of girls were pretty people, real nice looking. Then the Japanese were there, but we didn't like them. Even then, we didn't like them at all. Chinese were very social, very nice people to deal with. And Japs run most all the places, they in their stores and things, and gift shops. And we didn't like them at all.
What about Pearl Harbor? Was it a Navy base then?
Yes, it's just establishing it, and just establishing there were not many ships in there, of course, when I was there. And they would come and go, you know, as headquarters, meeting place there. But Lord have mercy, when they had the pictures of that day, it was a terrible thing. It wasn't long till my son was he'd been on the Hornet, and he'd got, the oldest boy, he was on the Hornet, and he got sunk at the Battle of Santa Cruz. And there were 129 killed on it that day, but he got off all right and came back and finished his pharmacy. And he went on to Independence, and he's on it for several months, and there's night fighters. He's in a lot of 100 and some engagements when he was on that. And then he got to come home, but after quite a while.
You ever see the battleship Oklahoma?
I never did see that.
It was commissioned in 17, I think.
Yeah, I saw the New Mexico and some of those. And the Iowa, it was about the newest one in the Iowa. And it was over there. And in New Mexico, I saw it somewhere else. I'm forgetting now.
What did you do in Armistice Day, the day the war ended?
Well, I hadn't been aboard ship yet. I was still in San Diego. And we had a big parade downtown, and of course all had to take part in it, and I was glad it's over, but I hadn't seen much action, but I didn't see much any time. But my boy, oh hell, he saw a lot of action. And the other boy was ship's cook, and he was in Atlantic. He didn't see very much action, but he was ship's cook. And this boy he'd studied pharmacy for a year and a half, and he didn't have enough to be a hospital chief, so I didn't want to be what we call a hoshap. I didn't want to be that. That's just assistant and get all the dirty work. So he went to school and studied as a machinist for about a year with the government, and then went in as a machinist. And that's what he did all the time. And as soon as he got out, he came back home and got his job back to the drugstore and went on and finished.
Okay, so when did you get your discharge?
In September in 19.
September 1990.
I was in quite a while after.
You came back to Oklahoma, came back to Mangum?
Yeah, I came back to Granite. Went to start school. I was there about 2 weeks, and they said, well, once you start, you and your brother start school and play football. Well, they had some youngsters there that didn't know too well, so we did, and several boys was in the service played football that year.
Did they have the granite quarries over there at Granite at that time?
Yes, they were there before I even came there.
Did you do any work over there in the quarries?
No, a lot of friends that did. I'll tell you about one little incident. Washington D.C. I visited there when my son was in, and I visited Washington Monument, and in the walls of that, so many they have around their stairway, they have stone from every state, and one or two from some other or something. And I saw that Joe Pello I saw him make that stone out there, just a big old boy. And he in World War I, they shipped him up there, and he was there, stationed there, in office work, and he was did that kind of work, and they came around, wondering if anybody knew anything about setting a cornerstone. He said, well, I've had to set probably 150, 200 of them. He said, well, give me 2 or 3 men. They gave him 6 men in the truck, and he went over to Washington Monument, and I'd be damned for it, and it was his own stone that he just getting around and setting it. And I saw him make it, and it's something interesting. Never thought anything about it. And then I told this boy he had an Legion button on, and I told him about it. He said, oh, I never knew that. I said, well, listen, said, we're not supposed to open any doors up there from the elevator. So have them during the war. And he said, I'll tell you what to do. You come go up with me, then you stay up there. When I go back down, then the next time I'll find you. He said, you come go with me. He said, it could be something get wrong with that door or something right about the time I got even with that stone. He said, there could be something wrong with it. I had to see about it. And he hammered around, shaking on, and opened up and said, when you see me open the door, you just come over there. And there was my stone in there. There's a light enough shine there. And that gave me a thrill. It was a gray granite, and it was made down, made there, but the granite came down around Roosevelt. It's gray granite.
How high up in the monument is that stone?
Oh, let me say, I'm just saying about 2/3 of the way up.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'll tell you, he said, now that's something that I'll be able to tell somebody about in the future. Then about a year later in the Oklahoma Legion there, was right up those stones, showed the pictures of them. And he said there's one stone there that, and he told the story, didn't give any names, it is made in the same town, and the man was there, and he got to see his stone. And so that was the only time it was opened during the war, they said.
What was the man's name that made the stone?
Joe Pello, P-E-L-L-O-W. They were Pello brothers, Cy, Pello, and Joe, and Paul. And they all, and Paul was a salesman, and he was always talking, and the other fellows are all robust, strong people. Well, Paul was too, man, he didn't muscle like nobody did. And he's always talking. And he just said, you want to get next to somebody? Said, you want to borrow something from him? Borrow a pocket knife or chew tobacco or something from him. Says, that way you get, they cool off to you pretty quick. And he said, I was talked to a man and approached about buying a monument. And I said, say, old man, you got a chaw tobacco? Would you? And he reached way down in his pocket, and he pulled up a piece of tobacco, and he's, and I think his soul, because Paul didn't lie about it. He said, and it's kind of damp. He said, oh man, this tobacco is a bit damp. He said, well, maybe it is. Says, I'm not as young as I used to. Can't hold my water like I used to. And God almighty, he said, oh, I'll already taken a little chew of it. You know. But Paul, he was a great fellow. They're all gone now.
Mm-hmm. You say that you knew Dr. Stovall?
Yes, I knew him personally. I knew all his folks, knew his sisters, brothers. And his dad was a doctor, old Dr. Stovall, and NMD. And when he first come out, I didn't know him. And he had some brothers, and I played football with his grandson of his. And I knew his sister once, and this grandson disappeared, and last time I heard, it's been 25 years ago, never heard from him. In Chicago, he was teaching there, and he just disappeared. They don't know why. He got hijacked or something, knocked in the head. They don't know why. He had been married and was married then. He married again, and his sister was lived in Norman, and she was Burton, I believe that she was a mayor of Norman one time, and she's dead now.
What was her
Mm,
name?
I'm sorry you asked me.
Yeah. What kind of man was Dr. Stovall?
Oh, he was, I think, one of the best, probably. And of course, he'd been everywhere around, and he'd been in the foreign countries. And he was, I don't think he was, he may have had a doctorate degree in it. I imagine he did. And I've been up there, and been to the Stovall Museum several times. I've been up and talked to Dr. Bell.
Oh, Dr. Bell.
And he wanted, he liked that stone I had. I'd ever show him a stone out there. The one that I think so much of is a Cup-to-Pidge stone, and it's the only one that known in Oklahoma. And they don't have one there. And he said, I don't know one around anywhere in Oklahoma. And he won't bring it up to the Stovall Museum. I said, no, I won't for a while. I had it up to our museum here a while, and I took it back when we went out of business up there. And so they're trying to start again. I don't know whether or not. But anyhow, he'd like for me to bring it up there too, but I just kept it.
What kind of stone is it?
Cup-to-Pidge stone. When I show it to you, you probably never saw one just like it. You'd be very lucky. And I've had one that's got 2 or 3 pits on it. Got this about 25 or 6 pits. It's a stone about this big around and weighs 40 pounds approximately. And I've had pictures I've taken of it and sent it to the National Museum. And they wanted Smithsonian, said that's the only one ever been reported at Smithsonian west of the Mississippi River. And the only one made of granite. He said we have a dozen or more up here on display in the Smithsonian, but they're from South Carolina and Georgia and Florida and places like that, sandstone.
And what were they used for?
That's it. He said they're the greatest mystery of all Indian relics, of all, anything. The greatest of all because so little is known as to what they were used for. Probably a user mixing pigments of paint, or possibly a ceremonial stone, or possibly for crushing herbs in, or something like that. But he said, now one man from, I believe it was in New York museum there, he said, I've been in this business 40 years. Your guess is just as good as mine. Now that didn't answer anything, but they just showed that I do have something very. Now I could sell it. I could sell it to Smithsonian anytime.
What kind of personality did Dr. Stovall have?
See, it's been years when I first moved here. I met him, and I never did meet him as Granite I know of, and very pleasant, as I remember, very pleasant. As I remember, very firm, but very, very pleasant, very sociable. He just answered me. After it was over, we had quite a talk up there in the auditorium, and he was so glad to know that I knew his folks in there, And he had a niece there she sang in New York quite a bit. They had a dairy there, and they don't. We'll go look at that if you want to anytime.
Just checking that. Tell me something about the Indians around here.
I don't know much about them. You see, the Indians here were didn't live with the things that I look for, and when the people who do that, we are they were used about 650, 800 years ago. They have what they call a 14 carbon test, but they tell that's I don't mean a thing to me. I don't know anything about it, but they test it's got to be something charred, and it's a piece of rock or something's charred. They can test within 50 years approximately when they were here. And I don't know, I found a beautiful arrowhead out here that the sand had flowed out of it. And I had a necklace made for my granddaughter, and he said, now you'll have the only one in the world probably made from regular Indian necklace. And And when I picked that up, and the boy that's with me, Johnny Morris here, he says, Barney, the most remarkable thing in that is not that you found it, but the fact that you're probably the first one to touch that in maybe 800 years. See, you probably would. If anybody else seen it, they'd have picked it up. But the old Indians, what we call the old around here in the last part of 1800 on there, they don't know anything about that. They don't care a thing in the world about that. I know more right today than they know about the Indian artifacts and things like that. They don't know anything about it. And they'll say a certain aspect or a certain group. They call it up north. Somebody that came in. And the Indians we know here were not known by that name here at all. They didn't even live here. They moved in later. Some of them probably came maybe from Alaska and up in there and came on down, you know. And they don't know anything about their ancestors. They don't care anything about it. They're not interested. That don't mean anything to them at all. All they knew about the ancestors, how bad they was treated by old Custer and them and slayed a bunch of them up here. I hate that son of a bitch. I just don't have anything to do with him at all. But some of my people that I'm part Indian, I'm part Cherokee, Eastern Cherokee, Shlockers, and they call the Cave people. Oh man, I get off on it. But anyhow, I can't like him and the things they did here and just took everything they had and in no way killed them off, you know. And the ones that surrendered didn't want to do that. They didn't want to farm. And some of them went ahead and made pretty good farms. The Kiowas did and some of the Comanches did. But these here just have a bad name because they drink a lot and they didn't. They had some that had a few cattle, but that's about all. I don't know much about them.
Are you related to Ned Christy?
Who?
Are you related to Ned Christy?
No, I don't know. Where do they live?
Oh, he was.
T.I.E.?
I'm not sure. He was over in the old Cherokee Nation.
Ned, wasn't he? Was he an outlaw or was he a law officer?
He was an outlaw. He was.
Yeah, and T.I.E. I believe it's spelled. Okay. I've read about him. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know much about any ancestors I have in Oklahoma that were old families, most of them. From Texas, and some of them came from Indiana. From the Army Department, they said born in Indiana, and he's raised as a farmer, and his hair was dark, and he was 5 foot and 11 inches tall, and that's Grandfather Christy. That's about all I know about him.
Tell me more about the Indians.
About our local Indians?
Oh, you say that you probably know more about the old Indians.
Oh well, they don't care. They don't give a damn. They don't care. They don't know because they never get studied about it. And once in a while, you'll find a fellow that's maybe been to the Carlisle Indian School or something like that, or some other school, and he's even played football with Jim Thorpe maybe in there, or baseball or something. No fellow used to have a crooked finger. He says, "See that finger?" Of shortstop, baseball, played with Carlisle. It says, "You win all." Oh, we sometime win. Now, who you play? Oh, we sometime play Pennsylvania. Sometime we play Lehigh. Sometimes those big teams in, you know. Oh, sometimes we win, sometimes we lose. But he was the best little fellow. He was educated. His name was Big Bear, but he was little, but he's called Big Bear, his name. And he wore braids. He'd come in on Saturdays and listen to ball games. He liked to listen. I said I was too small to play football, but he knew Jim Thorpe and he knew those people. And then they had some Exton down in here, southwest here, about 35, 40 miles. They played. And I had, there was a fellow, Brigantine or something like that at Lombo that played with Jim Thorpe, played quarterback. He was tall. Mike Valenti, yeah, I was thinking of it. And he refereed a lot of games down there. And I heard a story in the Collier's magazine, The Red Menace. Oh, I wish I could get a copy of that. It's running there a series. I wish I had a book. The Red Menace by Pop Warner, and when he coached it. And he said one time they won the game from the Navy and made four, They won four, made field goals, made 4 field goals. And that's the only score made. Mike Valenti kicked those field goals, he was quarterback. And so he asked Pop, and I said, I didn't know. I mean, Pop asked him, said, Mike, when did you learn this to kick? He said, oh, said Jim Clark been showing me how. And he kicked 4 field goals and 1 from the Navy. A fellow here said he saw Jim Clark kick up at the one time exhibition up the state fair, and he got out in the middle of the field and he drop kicked that ball through the goalpost, pitched the ball out, turned around in the same spot, and drop kicked it through the other goalpost. And Matt Rankin was our old coach here, you know. Oh, he won lots of games. Rankin did when he was here. He's gone now. He was in the Navy too. Mm-hmm. But he was on the old metal ship in New York. And his sons were both in the Navy, and both my sons were in the Navy. But I was only, well, I had my brother, of course, his son was in the Navy. And I had some.
What were these names?
Oh.
The chief.
No, it wasn't Douglas Johnson. It was, I think he was a chief person.
Douglas Johnston?
Yeah, I think he was, wasn't he? And Johnson Murray was his, I believe he was Johnson Murray's great uncle or grandfather or something. Murray came from that county, and my dad was well acquainted with old Bill Murray. But that, and showed some pictures of it then, and I last time I was down there, I didn't have time to look around, and I was going to ask if that was any more that had caved off there. It was going to protect it, you know. And that's not the name, doggone, why can't I? And I wouldn't know where to look it up very easy, but he was an old chief there, the Chickasaw. But then there's little campsites all up and down those creeks. So they are, people whenever, they may be in pasture, and it's been pasture where there's nothing on the surface to find, and someone, maybe you find a door in a fence, they thought it's another rock, you know. I found stuff around old fence rows, you know, grain grinders.
Yeah. You ever hear of the Sequoia Convention?
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with it?
Not very familiar with it. And, you know, they're going to try to make a, you know, Sequoia state in the States, you know. And I don't know a whole lot about it, but past got read and ignored, you know.
You ever hear of a Chickasaw, yeah, named Tishomingo?
Well, Tishomingo, yes. That's where Murray Aggie's college was there, Tishomingo.
Oh, was there an Indian named Tishomingo?
I think there was a chief Tishomingo. I'm pretty sure there was.
You know anything about him?
No, not unless I may have read and you know, kind of passed up. And I was probably, oh man, fella, I've got books and stuff just pigeonholed, and every once in a while, like this, I took down an old, wasn't a catalog, but it was a program of an 1908 of track meet state, and this college was in that, and a picture of this college team, all the finest looking fellows in it, you know, and several different colleges, and I find it, I'll just stick it back, you know, and now there's a lot of it I don't know where to find myself.
Did you know Bill Murray?
Yes, oh yes, yes. We now Rankin Williams used to be our old coach here. His father was one of the senators in Oklahoma, and back when and he was I believe a member of the convention, what do you call it?
Constitutional
yeah.
Convention.
And I think he was a member of that. And Rankin was a page in the house after they organized, and he was a boy, and so Daddy, well, we lived there then, and old Bill, that was a long time before that, he was lawyer over there in Fishman. And he'd come over there, and I guess he ate before my dad, maybe his restaurant. And he got pretty well acquainted. It was small, the community wasn't many people in, and you knew people, more of them than you did later on. And then sometime he might have went over there to be on a court or something. And he got pretty well acquainted. He liked old Bill. He just thought a lot of him. And back after Bolivia, when he went to Bolivia and all, well, he trying to organize down there, you know, and finally they lost title to their land. Now they changed the government. That's the main thing. I talked to him about that later, and he told me just how. I said, you hear a lot of stories, Governor Bill, they call him Governor Bill. I said, you hear a lot of stories about what caused you to have to give up that, those people who went, several hundred people down there. And of course they held him responsible for that, but he said they changed the governments in that we didn't have any title, just didn't have it. There wasn't anybody getting out of it, he had to come back. Well, he'd been home a while, and there's little talk about him running for governor. He'd run once back about 1910 along there, you know, and he lost that. And Dad was always for him then. Dad was working at when they first put in the promontory there, there was a commissary steward, the second one they had there. Well, he lost his job. I just called his for Bill Murray. He knew he did. So all of us for old Bill there, you just go home. And he said, well, they're better off without it. But anyhow, when back in the years in the prison, when he run, they talked about him running for governor, you know.
March 3rd, 1983. This is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Mr. Barney Christy. I was talking about Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
And South American colony.
And so Dad and old Uncle George Briggs, he had worked in Texas for the Burt Burnett outfit or something, and he was an old timer in Oklahoma, and he was always for Bill Murray. And he was I think he was the Constitutional Convention or something. But anyway, he and Dad and another fellow got together and said, we hear talk about old Bill running for governor. Said, let's write him, see. So they all wrote him some letters. Well, he knew Dad, he just called him Jim, you know, and he knew that well. And Dad wrote him a letter, said, why don't we, have you ever thought about running for governor? And well, of course he hadn't, I know. Well, he says, there have been several people, he got a letter and said, several people have asked me about that. Said, I'm interested in the way. Said, if I should take it over to do that, I'll let you know. And said, you boys get busy, the old time. Well, there wasn't many people even knew Bill Murray out there. A lot of the school teachers and all, they thought he was just an old something, you know, wasn't ignorant and all, and one of the smartest men in the state, you know, of course, that's concerned about it, especially government. And so in about 2 weeks, got a letter from him. Dear Jim, said, I've decided I've thrown my hat in the ring. Says, you and old George and so get busy out there now. And of course, now Dad wasn't a politician, but he had a little lunchroom there, and he meet a lot of people, and he got to talk him up and got some of his friends interested. Now, I know there was a school teacher coming out, a nice little boy, McGavity, who played basketball and football up there. And he said what he'd heard about him. And so he went over there, and listening, he come back and said, that's the smartest fellow I ever heard talk on, especially most of them about that government, you know. And so he decided on, and while he was, when he ran for governor, made that cheese and cracker campaign, he came out and he stayed with us 3 or 4 days out there, and ate with us and all, and couldn't keep from those habits he'd have. And I pour out a cup of coffee. He said, give it to me, you want cream? Give it to me, I'll attend to it. And he'd pour coffee about 3 or 4 and poured up cold water, and the water run over on the counter and stuff. But it's all right. He did a lot of that just for sure. And then, of course, he wanted big, you know. And later on...
What's the cheese and cracker campaign?
Well, they call that, you know, he just didn't have any funds much. He just bum his way from place to place and ride with other people, you know. In other words, just on cheese and crackers, that's all they had to eat or something. That's what they call it, you know, refer to as cheese and crackers. So anyway, then he wanted, and Dad went up to see him time to when the governor. Never asked him for a accommodation for himself at all. Never did for anything. So he's up there one day, and I believe it was Claude Weaver was his secretary, and he's out in a little office right out in front of the governor's office, almost out in the hall. He knew Dad real well, and he said, hi, Jim. Yeah. He said, could I see the governor today? He said, Jim, you better not go in there. I said, now this don't do but he's mad as hell. He said, they just run him ragged. And so he said, well, I don't care. I've seen him that way before. Says, you'll have to get cussed out. So I don't care for him. So he went on in, and he knew him when he come over. Hi, Jim. All right, now, what in the hell do you want? You know, everybody else wants something. He said, Dad said, I don't want a GD thing you've got. Said, he's come just want to say hello. My God. Said, sit down there. Said, they're running me crazy this morning. They want this, they want a bridge here, they want this.
I say, see Sam Hawk, but hell no, they got to see old Bill. They won't talk to the highway commissioner or somebody. They want to see me. Sit down. That's, I just want to say, I said, sit down. And he said, and he got talking about old Mill Creek and times back there, and he get talking people they knew, you know, and Dad started, he said, sit down, by God, I'll tell you when to leave. Finally he said, well, I just want to sit down. Said, I just assumed that, I don't make a note of it. Said, I just seem to be talking to some other son of a bitch as you. Well, his dad didn't pay no more attention to that. He'd cuss his own friend, just cuss him out to him. Said, I just assumed he'd cuss some other son. Then he said, it seemed like I stayed there nearly an hour, and I'd get up and make me sit down again. Well, then he did invite him out, but he didn't. He had to leave. But he'd been out there twice with him, Governor, and he stayed someone with us full time. And interesting to hear him talk. Oh, he was smart. No kidding about it. He didn't use. Now, he put on a lot of that stuff. They said that Chicago went to places up there, fellows that told me he knew about it, was an old man. He was the proper etiquette and his meals and everything, dressed nice for it. And then he'd come out with that old tobacco-stained shirt on and things like that. And get up and make a talk. He'd maybe get up on the back of a truck and sit down, you know, and pull off his shoe and shake some sand out of his shoe and had those old Rockford socks on, you know, and wipe his feet off and put back, and he still talk all the time, you know. And didn't want to shake hands. And his daughter told me, don't shake hands with the governor. Don't shake hands with him. He said he just wore him out. He didn't like that handshaking too much. But then years later, when I was here, he was making a tour to sell his books. You know, Bill Murray, his life story on. And a preacher and I knew him and knew about it. We went up to the hotel, and he just flopped down on the bed there and telling stories. And I introduced myself, and he ate with me when he was here. And he said he remembered Jim. And so one time when he was before that, Dad wrote him and said, I've got a good friend, Bill said, I never have asked him anything, but would like a job down at McAllister. And he says he's a good man, and he says he's deserving, and he's had some experience. And anyway, his old Howard McLeod that later on became the warden down there, stayed with, and then another fellow. But this was another fellow. He wrote twice now. He got a letter from him on looked like an old paper sack that he carried his lunch stuff there in, and had some grease on it, and he was a big old heavy soft lead pencil. And if he wanted to talk, he didn't have his secretary to write out a typewriter. He just write him himself. And he wrote right as this catacomb that big. He said, Dear Jim, said, I don't know a damn thing about this old boy that you asked about a job down here, but said, if you say he's all right, I guess he is. So you tell him to go down to McAllister and his job will be waiting for him. And then this fellow finally, I think he was the one that finally made the warden down there after all those years. But I'd give anything for that old sack. Would it be worth something? And but Daddy in his desk and all, I never did find it. And my mother may have given me, Petra may have given it to my brother. I don't know. But
What about the bridge incident down on the Red River?
Red River? Let's see, wait now. What was that saying about that? Something, what was it, Horatio at the bridge, they called it. You remember that statement made? He come down there himself, you know, and had, I think, a white suit on, and he with the National Guard right down there, you know. And then this, when he was telling us about that, decisions made, and when he was selling that book, and he told us old boy, and said, says, we come out of Colorado, and I said, I told him, I says, there's no use taking that to Oklahoma, to our Supreme Court, said, or something, Oklahoma, they don't know a damn thing, he said. And he says, no use taking it to the district court, they don't know a damn thing. And she took it, and when he did, it was settled, and he carried on to, says, they don't give us an answer. And you get to the Denver Court of Appeal, says, they don't know a damn thing. But he says,
when he take it to the Supreme Court of the United States, said old Hughes, although he's a damn Republican, he does no law. Man, you know how he told, well, so he's a damn, then he didn't like Republicans. He said, he's a damn Republican, but he does no law, and we'll win it there. And that's just exactly what happened. You know, they won it there. And these others passed up, they lost it in all those courts, but the Supreme Court they did. And they used to be, they thought halfway was the line, you know. And then he complimented him on when he was inaugurated. I went up to his inauguration, and they came to hear old Bill. And anyway, his daddy, Uriah, he was appointed as a justice of peace or something in order to have authority to swear him in as governor. And the old grandfather was dressed nice, and old Bill had a nice, pretty brown suit on and all. He looked neat and clean. But boy, that old voice, he just boomed all over that Capitol grounds there. And so he said, yeah, and this priest said, it's nice of you that your father got to swear you in. And I believe it was Jerry Berry King that he didn't like. He called him Jerry Berry King. He was some state official. And he was one to swear him in. Maybe Attorney General, I guess. Yeah. And he said, it's nice that your father got to swear you in. He said, yeah, he said, I know, said it would please father. Besides that, I didn't like the damn Attorney General. And he just got to, and you didn't want him to swear him in. Then the day of the old Johnson, I went up there then too, and he was, I knew Johnson, he had a sister-in-law here, her brother-in-law here. And he'd eat with me all the time. And old Johnson, one time I asked, Johnson, why don't you run for governor sometime? I said, I bet you could win that. Oh, I thought about it. In about 3 years he did. And then we campaigned for him. He made some mistakes, of course. But anyway, when we went up that day at Johnson, Johnson's brother, just 1 minute now. Okay. Wait a minute. When I went out there, old Johnson inaugurated, his dad was there, and his dad swore Johnson in, see. And his daughter-in-law had him all dressed up in a nice brown suit, nice old, just neat as a pin. They couldn't, they didn't want to hear anybody else talk. They wanted to hear old Bill talk. The people did. And boy, when he did talk, he'd just make an introduction on and try. He made quite a little political speech there. And gosh, I'll tell you, that old big old voice of his, he's getting old, and he's quite a character. I don't know, maybe. But Dad never asked me anything on that once, and he ran him that favorite. But he'd cuss if you know.
Where'd you move to in Greer County?
Granite.
Granite?
1907. When I moved to Granite, there was board sidewalks. There was about, I believe there were 3 cars known in the town. And of course, one of them was a fellow named Perkins, and another was a Dr. Wiley. And it was a long time ago, several years before we didn't get very many cars. And the first car I rode in was an old white Buick. And I rode from Granite out to the Sulphur Spring for the picnic, Sunday school picnic. And the seat was higher in the back than it was the front. The back seat was higher. I just thought I was near as heaven as I'd ever get right then. But then it wasn't long. We began to get a few more autos, they call them, you know. But it was when I moved to County Granite, there were 11 hotels there. I can name them all. And then they began to see it's new country, and the people come in there and they'd land there, and they'd have to have a place to stay. Then while they were building homes, they did, and they'd come out there just to see about it. And they'd come out on the train that far for a while, so they went over to Mangum, and then they salesmen would come out there, and they'd stay over, you know, at night, and there was quite a demand for a place to stay, and those old names, I'll never forget them. And there's not a one of those left anymore. They built a new one in there. That's not anything, but a new one that was years later called the Nance Hotel. They didn't have any then. It's all disappeared. And some of those old buildings we used to play in when I was a kid would be empty, you know.
What were the names of the old hotels?
Okay, I'll give it to you. But I'll have, okay. They, you know, that's all, that's okay. I said it is. Okay, the Rock Island, and below that was the Metropolitan. Across the street was the Granite Hotel, that's 3. 1, 2, 3. And then down below that was the Palmer Hotel. They called it the Palmer House, and they Palmer 2-story Palmer Hotel. Then the commercial, I believe they called it, was west in Parktown. That was a 3-story or part of a 3rd story there. Yeah, commercial. And they'd go down and meet the trains with a bus, and they'd say they'd be from that hotel, the only 3-story hotel in town, you know. And then now, see, what's that? That's 4 of them, I believe. And then they had the St. James, and then they had the Sulphur Springs Hotel out at the Sulphur Springs. That's St. James, and that's about it. And they had they always had an old one across the tracks, you know. It was kind of questionable. That was the Lawrence. I didn't know anything about that, but they'd say, oh, you know all about that. Well, I was just a little kid, I don't know. But let me see what those hold on, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's just 4, 5 more. And they had instead of St. James, I've got the list back there, but anyhow, there were 11 hotels, and they, let's see, Rock Island, Metropolitan, Granite Hotel, St. James, then the Wardell, that was a little hotel, and that was, I think it was 7 or 8 there. There were 11. I've got the name down there, but I can't.
Yeah, well, that's okay. While we're on at the Lawrence Hotel, how come it's
Don't ask
questionable?
me about that, because, you know, there'll always be a questionable. It's probably, like the old boy said he invested, in the early day, he invested in now this is not housing lots. Houses of ill fame and lots of whiskey. Well, it was a kind of house of ill fame, they claimed. They always had to have one around, you know. It's always questionable, and some of the old boys, you know, that had come in there, and they'd, well, just like to be in other places like it is now, some of these places, you know. That was the one that was questionable.
Who made the moonshine around Granite?
Who made the moonshine?
Yeah.
Well, I don't recall some. I know some. I wouldn't want to mention the name because he's got some folks there yet. But he bootlegged for years and years there, and they called him Dr. Well, Dr. Lee was his name, and they just called him Doctor, and everybody knew it. And I don't think they ever had him up for it. Somehow they just passed it up, you know. But for years he was. And there's other people around there. One time we had an old boy there that he bootlegged, and all the time everybody knew it. And he'd rather had a big family, and he'd rather those kids be out in the cotton patch and be in school or anything. And finally, when he passed away, the mother got she raised the rest of those kids, and she sent them to college. And she had one come up here, and I got him a job in college. And oh, he made the finest, I believe he was a pharmacist, and owned several stores in Texas later on. But his daddy, it's just his mother wanted done. But some of them are very, very, well, they're very careless in their habits, you know. But you could tell who they were, and if you wanted one, you just let them know, and they'd either bring you some in an old pocket or take you around there and had it stuck under something, an old building or something. But that was, well, and you could order whiskey then too from when it first come out there. It was no saloons, but you could order it. Then it got where you couldn't order it, you know. And then that's when it got binding to all those people. But Granite, they've always had the quarries there. They've got a lot of the money from the quarries, and they payroll from a farmatory, and a good farming community, and so it's still held up pretty well, Granite is. I don't have any relatives there anymore, except a sister-in-law, but I go back occasionally. It seems like home to me in a way when I go back there, but I don't see any of the old. I think of the little ditty says when you go back like those reunions, high school and all. And where are the boys of the village tonight? Where are the friends we knew? You'll think of that. You know, they're not there. And so I don't enjoy going back as much as I used to. But I used to go over a little town of Loma for 8 miles. I walked over there, I think 2 different times, played a game of, the kid played a game of baseball and walked back home 8 miles back, and we'd stop at the river and go swimming and come back if it wasn't too late and walk down the railroad track 8 miles. Now, who would do that anymore? Well, they wasn't about to loan us an old car if they had one, or a team and a wagon, something, go there and play a game, a bunch of kids, you know. And I could talk about like in high school days, and we were playing football, and one year there it turned out 2 weeks in the fall to play 19 to pick cotton. Well, we had a game match with Eric, way up there, 40 or 50 miles up to those sand hills, you know. And well, we had one old car, we could go an old Ford, but that wouldn't carry us all. And we could, some of the boys were picking cotton. We finally found 10 boys, and we played one that hadn't played in 2 or 3 years. We played him, a ringer we call him, a ringer because it wasn't left. But they may have had some too. So no way to go. And one old boy, Cleo Pearson, he'd been up before the judge there, Judge Stacy, a number of times for just minor things, didn't amount to much, but he's always honest with the old judge, and the judge kind of liked him, but still he'd been up several times. He had a great big old, not a Cadillac, but some big old car, and so he said, I'll go borrow Judge Stacy's car. We just laughed at him. We was downtown. You just think you will. Well, we went to lunch, and there he met us. It's a little while down there in town with that big old car, you know. It hold about 7 or 8 in. Oh, it's a big one. And he said, yeah. He said, well, Clell, you just keep plenty of oil in it, and you drive it yourself, all right. And then we came back. I said, you keep it. Said it'll be late. You get back. You keep it at your house the next morning. Bring it over. That was, we couldn't hardly believe it. I talked to him just about a week ago over the phone. The only one left on our team, he and I, from Odessa, Texas. But I said, you borrowed the old judge's car lately? He said, no, not lately. But that wasn't a Cadillac. It seemed like it was a big old Nash or something. And it was a big one. But boy, the old judge, that he'd been up before him several times. One time he says, somebody said, well, what did you plead guilty for? And before he thought, he said, well, I said, he said, I thought I'd be tried in the kangaroo court anyhow. He said, you mean to call my court a kangaroo court? Oh, Judge said, I'm so sorry. So I was thinking about old Judge so-and-so. Yeah, and he excused me for it. You know. But that's funny. So many funny things that happened, as you remember them. And I made some notes and mental notes about them. And I, what I call my blue book, it's got little everything like things like that that I wanted to remember. I've got in there, but it's. They said, why don't you jot that? I just don't have the ambition to write much of that stuff down.
Do you have any old photographs of Mill Creek or Granite?
Not to Mill Creek. Most of mine with Granite I took to the Ford Museum down there, and the ones I have of Granite, I don't know where I'd look. I've got a few somewhere, but Lord, it'd take quite a lot of them. I couldn't. I ought to take a. Excuse me a minute. I've got a picture here. My wife was in the Eastern Star. She was in, and she had a 50-year. She got a 50-year pin. This was her, and that's the night that the past matron gave her her 50-year pin.
Yeah.
And then this was her there, and I believe that's
50
that's my
award.
50 years award for the membership in the I'll just have to. We never got. I got. And I've been putting them back. There you see. And I've got pictures of. Now let me show you just one picture here of that. Oh well, no, it takes too long. But anyway, I've got all this full of pictures from Granite, and I've got some old albums. Look at that, and I've got, but I don't know where I'd find them in there. Some of them I put them in albums, some of them sent where they belong.
They have photographs from Texas?
No, some old. I did have some old tintype, but I wouldn't know. Look here, it's an old family. I don't know who that is, but the ones I have, I put them in a separate box. Then I've got all albums of Europe. I have to travel over Europe a little bit. And let me see just a minute here.
Is that a photograph of you in uniform down there?
Oh, that's a boy of mine, a cousin of mine was in the Marine Corps in Nicaragua. He got shot and they just nipped his ear. Yeah, I don't think I have one. Oh, I've got pictures, a lot of them set in uniform on that, but I'm not gonna take the flame right. Well, yeah, there's one early day in the uniform, but I've got some lot better pictures than that. I've got some brother and I and my first grandchild, it's sweet. Now she's her dad and mother are multimillionaires in Texas. And I found them just the same old kids they ever were. And there's another picture in high school day. Look at that collar about to choke me to death there. And but I've got I've just got the pictures. But I was gonna I think right here, I believe this is one that I've got something. I won't look through all the things. Your time is but I'll tell you, I never did. I think that my wife and I were married for 59 years.
Mm-hmm.
And this is her. This is here back 2 years back here. This picture here, you see, her and I.
Yeah.
And this is her picture taken on back there. She was sweet as a lady. But that's an old uncle. This is from the Village Association. Let me see now. Then sometime I think there's my submarine flotilla one I was attached to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we exchanged uniforms with some boys, and Army boys, and that's me there. And what they like to dance in that, why hell, they put us in the penitentiary. They called us that. Let's see now, I'm not gonna. That's one of our degree teams down there. We have in our lodge down there. We have for degree teams. We have a blue jacket. And we have I don't see, maybe that, well, we have a letter G right over the pocket, and then we have black bow ties there all the time, and if they don't have one, and white shirts, if they don't bring a white shirt, why, we furnish them on, and it makes them awful nice for a degree. I did number 3, you know what number 3 is?
Yeah.
127 times, and I have a record of all the ones that was my uncle. There was my granddaughter and one that lives in Dallas, and we was visiting with them, a great granddaughter, and I visited my granddaughter, and she's taking violin lessons, and the little boy he didn't, but he just playing like he did. But she's 15,